Hello, YouTubers, and welcome to All Sex Talk, your channel of alternative sexuality. I'm Master Taíno, and today we are going to talk about long distance master slave relationship or any other power exchange relationship for that matter. This is the first topic that is suggested by one of you, so I appreciate that, and we will pay attention when you write to us. Uh, Long distance relationship, first of all, there is a difference depending on the distance. Some people just live in the same town, the same area, but they don't live together. So, but it's still there is a distance there. Um, Others live within an hour, 2 hours. Something that traveling is easier. And we have cases of people who live even in different countries or very far away. So we try to cover all of them. The most important thing in long distance relationships is to understand it's not easy, it's a challenge. There are always going to be issues because you are not being together every day. But there is alternative. You could get together more often than not. Most important thing, communication. And the communication has to be pretty much daily. When I used to have a slave in New York City, while I live in the Washington D.C. area, uh, I require that there has to be uh, daily communication. And nowadays it's easy because we have so many options on how we can communicate. The technology keep advancing in incredible ways. So from the basic calls, phone calls, or text, or now Zooms, also through emails, or even through journals. There is many ways to communicate during the day, even more than once. But at least there has to be that daily communication. Um, the journal, let me interact here, is a way my slave in New York used to use it. Traditionally, used to be a journal that in a notebook that the slave will write and the master will read. Uh, but obviously, with the technology, usually the journal is through emails. Um, and when you have a long distance relationship, the slave could express, could send the journal through email. Um, Other interesting things are the symbols to keep the relationship alive, to have both of you knowing that is going on, even that distance separate you. For example, the color. It's very common for a slave to use the color. It's not a requirement, and masters and a slave could come with different things. For example, with females, sometimes even that they are very nice necklace converted into collars with a small disguise, padlock, etc. Others ask with for a bracelet or an ankle bracelet or something. So it's up to you. It's whatever works for you. But there could be symbols that the slave knows that they belong to the master. They're in service to the master. Something that I have done uh, with some sense, don't be ridicule with this, is to have the slave ask permission for certain things. That a lot of slaves like that. For others, could be a pain in the butt. So you communicate and figure out what kind of things work for you. But for example, it's good for the slave to know that if he wants to go to a movie or he wants to go with friends or he wants to go to certain activities, he has to call the master, either ask permission or either just to inform master, I'm going to be in this place, I'm going with friends to the park or whatever. That is something that keep that connection, and again that communication could be with just a simple text. um, Another thing that I did, and this was uh, because my slave used to, he has a good income, but he liked to spend, and I wanted him to be a wiser spender. So I will tell him that if he was going to spend more than $50 of his money, he has to ask permission. So I could control and make sure that I could help him not to be spending money in things that he doesn't need. So those are basic things that I will recommend. Um, it's very important, no matter the distance, that you meet in person. There has to be a plan on how you are going to be meeting in person. If you live in the same town, that is a lot of. I have a friend of mine who has been 20 years with his slave, and they don't live together. Each one has an apartment, but they are visiting very often. The slave spend good portion of the time in the master's house. Uh, when the distance is an hour, 2 hours, it could be weekends spending in the master house. When I was with my slave in New York, I used to go to New York and spend days with him. He gave me his apartment key, so I could go there even when he was working. I arrive and I get into the apartment. So and when you are in a different country, that is more challenging. There is a master in our mass group that lives here in the Washington area and have his life in South America. And believe it or not, he travels every month there. And it's like come sometimes here. So there has to be those logistics addressed, because if you are going to be in a long distance relationship, like I have seen in Fed Life, a guy in California is owned by a guy in Germany. Uh, no, that looks like a lot of fantasy, and I don't see a lot of purpose there. You could mentor, you could do some things on this distance, but not a real master slave relationship. Um, Rituals and mantras, again, if they work for you, you could have early morning or late night call to check in, to check out at night. Um, a lot of slaves like to be naked at home to remember that they are in service, etc. If that is a possibility, sometimes you your household doesn't allow that. Um, they are. I used to have one with sometimes that I have the boy to think in the relationship, kneeling naked, looking in direction of where I am, as a way to connect. But those are rituals and mantras. What is important about that is that they have to work with you. Don't do it because I'm telling you. If it doesn't resonate with you, don't worry. Put it aside. It came well. Matches to be creative and slave as well. Get together and see what kind of things you could do to keep the relationship alive. The other thing, service. How the slave can serve the master in a distance. I am going to be brief on this, but it's a very important aspect. It depends on the skills of the slave, and it depends of the master's needs. So don't ask the slave to do things that are away from his skills. Discover what skill he has, both professionally or otherwise, and try to use. One simple, for example, if he is a good copy editor, well, every time you have something that you write that you're going to publish or send to somebody, you could send it to your slave for him to copy edit. That kind of thing is what I mean. If you are involved in something, an activity, a non-profit, have your slave to do some to help you somehow in what you have to do. Uh, Avoid again silly stuff. Don't ask the slave to do things just for the sake of I'm the master and I want you to do something for me. Those power trips doesn't work and are not needed. Okay. One final thought is you have to respect from each side pre-existing priorities. What I'm talking about. If the slave have children, if a slave is taking care of an elderly parent, those is a slave have a demanding job. Nothing the master should do that will affect any of those things. The slave should be able to take care of his children as a priority. And even the master should order that. Serve me by being a good parent. I have friends who have done that. um, or care well with you for your mother or your elderly father. In that way, I will be proud of you. So make sure that if the slave has those pre-existing priorities that need to be respected. Well, I hope this has been helpful. Again, it's a challenge, but can be done. Well planned, a lot of communication, and that's it for today. I'll see you next week. Please subscribe. Give the notification button so you know when I'm post a new upload a new video, and reach me out, ask me questions, make comments, do likes. I'll see you next time. Thank you.